The Indiana Fever destroyed the Atlanta Dream.
There is 36 seconds left. A blowout by the Fever.
Gutty performance from Caitlyn Clark.
Caitlyn Clark had the ball in her hands. She became the creator of offense.
That is Fever basketball.
2 minutes ago, Caitlyn Clark shut down the Atlanta Dream and sent a message to the entire league.
Overall, I think the energy of this team is just different, man.
Jordan Canada, silenced. Brittney Griner, neutralized. Caitlyn didn't just play, she took over. If you're riding with her, drop 100% for Caitlyn in the comments right now.
Caitlyn Clark is obviously the reason why everybody's watching the WNBA. She's the reason why all these fans are tuning in.
Nobody on this team sets screens.
Let's unpack how she destroyed them in seconds. It's one thing to put up points. It's another thing entirely to change the momentum of a game with defense. And that's exactly what Caitlyn Clark did against the Atlanta Dream.
A complete and utter fourth quarter takeover from Caitlyn Clark and Aaliyah Boston.
Let's rewind. Jordan Canada came into this matchup looking like a nightmare. In the first half alone, she dropped 26 points.
We had Caitlyn Clark locking down Jordan Canada. Jordan Canada had 4 second half points with Caitlyn Clark guarding her.
Draining threes like Steph Curry and slicing through the Fever defense with ease. It looked like Indiana was in for another long, frustrating night. But everything changed the moment Caitlyn Clark took on the defensive assignment.
I mean, that's the stuff that only Caitlyn Clark is capable of doing.
In the second half, Caitlyn Clark was matched up directly with Jordan Canada, and what happened next was nothing short of elite defense.
Jordan Canada in the first half was cooking for the Dream, and that's really what changed the game. Is how many what did she have? 6 threes in the first half. She's a 21% three-point shooter. I'm glad the Fever and Stephanie White didn't overreact.
Jordan Canada scored just 4 points after halftime.
And they locked her down in the second half. She only had 4 points.
That's not a coincidence. That's Caitlyn Clark locking in.
Jordan Canada had 4 second half points with Caitlyn Clark guarding her.
This wasn't lazy switching or hiding behind help defense. This was Caitlyn face guarding, fighting over screens, staying low, using her length, and refusing to give up open space.
Overall, I think the energy of this team is just different, man. And it just sucks, bro, because it's like last year, bro, this team was really fun to watch, bro. This team's not fun to watch no more, and I just got to be real with y'all.
She took the challenge personally, and she delivered. The Fever as a team allowed just 23 points in the third quarter and 30 in the fourth, completely flipping the script after a shaky first half. And Caitlyn was the engine behind that transformation. Not with blocks or steals, but with the kind of effort that disrupts rhythm and confidence.
But you saw Clark sort of gaining her rhythm as the game went along, sort of returning to her form as the game went along, finding that pep in her step as the game went along, even though the shooting numbers were tour dates again, and she's got to find that shooting stroke at some point. Look, it can't go on all year, but you understand where some of those struggles come from when you deal with a quad injury and then a groin injury, and you're thrust back into the lineup and you're trying to find your way. But I do think it was the way that Clark found her way to the basket that was the difference in this game, really.
She made Jordan hesitate. She took away the easy looks. And when the Dream's best scorer went quiet, everything else started crumbling around her. It's worth repeating, Jordan Canada had 26 in the first, 4 in the second. And the common factor in that defensive shift? Caitlyn Clark.
We've been screaming this when they were running up and down the court and Caitlyn's making those long passes to various people under the basket. They just start racking up points.
But her impact wasn't just limited to one player. Her energy lifted the entire defense. With Caitlyn pressuring the ball and communicating loudly on switches.
Caitlyn Clark was like plus 18 in the second half. She was plus 18 in the second half.
The rest of the team responded. Rotations were sharper. Closeouts were tighter. And suddenly a team that looked disorganized in the first half was flying around with purpose in the second. Meanwhile, Atlanta's size advantage, with players like Brittney Griner and Bree Jones, became irrelevant.
Barrage by Jordan Canada, who had 26 points in the first half.
The Fever's pace and perimeter pressure forced them into awkward, rushed possessions. When your lead guard is locked up and your bigs aren't getting clean looks, you're in trouble. And that's exactly what Caitlyn's defensive tone created. Pressure, frustration, and total collapse. Her effort didn't show up in flashy steal numbers, but it showed up where it matters, the scoreboard. Indiana outscored Atlanta 59-36 in the second half, and the game turned from a battle into a beatdown. That's not just defense, that's leadership. That's Caitlyn Clark dominating the game without needing a single three-pointer.
Don't wait till it get late in the game to get the ball to Caitlyn. No, you need to start the game off like that. You need to start the game off giving Caitlyn the ball so she can find rhythm, look for the open players, and get it going, bro. But
while the box score will tell you Caitlyn Clark finished with 12 points and 9 assists,
We won the game. Caitlyn, 12 points, 9 assists.
You know, Caitlyn was -9 at the half, so she was plus 21 in the second half.
the full story is far more explosive. What Caitlyn did on the offensive end wasn't just about numbers. It was about controlling the tempo, creating chaos for the Dream, and elevating everyone around her. Let's start with her decision-making. This wasn't a game where she just stood at the top of the key and ran plays. Caitlyn Clark orchestrated. She read the defense in real time, constantly shifting angles, baiting defenders, and firing laser-sharp passes to cutters and spot-up shooters. Whether it was a bounce pass in the lane to Aaliyah Boston, a quick look to the corner for Sophie Cunningham, or a perfectly timed lob in transition, Caitlyn ran the show with precision. But what really stood out? She wasn't forcing it. In a system that's often suffocating for guards, Caitlyn found her way within the chaos. She didn't try to dominate every possession. She trusted her teammates, set them up.
Gutty performance from Caitlyn Clark in what was an encouraging win for the Fever over the Dream. But what she did was attack.
And made sure the ball kept moving. Her patience and floor vision were key to the 59-point second-half explosion.
59 points. We had Caitlyn Clark locking down Jordan Canada. Jordan Canada had 4 second-half points with Caitlyn Clark guarding her.
She consistently beat the Atlanta Traps with skip passes, broke double teams with split dribbles, and most importantly, got the Fever into rhythm. Let's talk numbers. Her 9 assists are just the start. Several of her passes led directly to free throws, meaning the assist wasn't recorded, but the impact was undeniable. She hit Aaliyah Boston at least 3 times for free throw trips.
4 passes to free throws. She hit Aaliyah Boston 3 times for free throws.
She found Sophie Cunningham wide open from 3, not once, but 4 times. These were passes few others in the league can make, threaded through traffic, on time, and in perfect rhythm. In fact, one of the biggest reasons for Sophie Cunningham's 16-point, 10-rebound double-double.
But Sophie Cunningham, double-double machine, bro. Sophie Cunningham, MVP of this game. She had 10 rebounds, 16 points, 1 assist.
Was Caitlyn's ability to stretch the defense. When Clark had the ball in her hands,
2 things very interesting in the second half. Number 1, they made sure Caitlyn Clark had the ball in her hands. She became the creator of offense.
defenders had to shade higher and tighter. That opened up space for cutters and shooters, and Cunningham took full advantage.
Let's go right here. Sophie Cunningham, let's check it out. And she's got the long 3 way downtown. Boom. Way down, boom.
But Caitlyn didn't just pass. She dictated everything. The pace, the spacing, the flow. There were possessions where she didn't even touch the ball until the final 5 seconds. But it was her early movement that bent the defense and created open looks. That's why you saw the Fever putting up nearly 100 points, something extremely rare in the WNBA's shorter games. What makes this performance even more jaw-dropping is that Caitlyn did all of this while battling a shooting slump. She went just 5 for 17 from the field and 1 for 7 from 3. Most players would fade or hesitate. Not Caitlyn. She kept attacking, kept creating.
She used the physicality against the defenders by putting her head down and going to the basket. That opened things up for her playmaking.
And never lost control of the game. Even when her shots weren't falling, she made sure everyone else got great looks.
I'm going to accept that contact. I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to score on you. And 1.
At one point in the third quarter, with the Dream's defense collapsing into the paint, Caitlyn called her own number. She drove hard right, absorbed contact, and kicked out to Dantas.
Absolute takeover. An absolute takeover. She's pushing the floor. Everyone's moving. Everyone's running. They're all playing together. Dantas is spreading the floor.
Who drained a clutch 3. Moments later, she ran a 2-man action with Aaliyah Boston that looked straight out of a Stockton Malone highlight reel. Smooth pick and roll, perfect pocket pass, easy bucket, repeat. And here's where it gets scary for the rest of the league. She's not even at full strength. Multiple observers noted that Caitlyn still looked ginger at times, recovering from earlier quad and groin injuries. She wasn't playing with her full speed or lift. And yet she was still the most impactful player on the floor, not just because of her skills, but because of her mind. She's playing chess while others are playing checkers. Even when the coach tried to shift her off ball, a move that's been criticized repeatedly, Caitlyn adjusted. She cut hard, spaced wide, and when the ball finally came back to her hands, she immediately initiated action. The team clicked when she ran the show, and everyone knew it. From Sophie to Kelsey Mitchell, Dantas to Aaliyah Boston, they all ate because Caitlyn cooked.
Once that started clicking, the Fever ran away with things. Sophie Cunningham was everywhere. Clark had it going with Aaliyah Boston again. Kelsey Mitchell was cooking. And all of a sudden, you look up and the Fever are lighting up the scoreboard.
In fact, by the end of the game, it wasn't just the points or assists that stood out. It was the feel. The Fever looked alive. The ball was moving. The tempo was fast. The spacing made sense. And all of that stemmed from one constant. Caitlyn Clark had the ball in her hands. That's the Caitlyn effect. She doesn't need 30 points to dominate. She doesn't need highlight reels to prove a point. She just needs the ball and a coach willing to let her run the offense. And when that happens, you get exactly what happened to the Dream. Obliterated in seconds.
That's where I think the frustration comes into play. But, it was a good Atlanta team that they beat. And I think the most encouraging signs were Clark just starting to attack.
The Atlanta Dream came into this game with size, experience, and momentum. With Brittney Griner, Brianna Jones, and the red-hot Jordan Canada, they had every reason to believe they'd dominate in the paint, push the Fever around, and walk away with a win. But what unfolded was the exact opposite. A complete collapse, led by Caitlyn Clark's relentless energy, her sharp basketball IQ, and her ability to completely disarm opposing stars. Let's begin with Brittney Griner. The 6 feet 9 inches former All-Star was supposed to dominate this matchup. Instead, she was erased from the narrative. She gave them virtually nothing. Multiple observers described her as a non-factor, despite the size advantage she held. Why? Because Indiana sped up the game, and at the center of that whirlwind was Caitlyn Clark. Every time Caitlyn had the ball, Atlanta's interior was under siege. She pulled defenders out of position with her court vision.
Caitlyn Clark is buying into what the coach is saying about playing off the ball and mixing up the looks. She knows, she said it plainly, they're at their best when she's got the ball. And when there's the opportunity to get her the ball and let her bring the ball up the floor, and she doesn't get it in favor of someone who's not a threat at all in that situation to really score or play make.
She stretched the floor so well that Griner and the other Dream bigs couldn't just camp in the paint. They were constantly reacting, closing out, recovering, and most importantly, they were out of rhythm. Caitlyn didn't attack Griner directly. She didn't need to. She used pace and misdirection to render Griner irrelevant. Here's how. Clark pushed the tempo every chance she got. Off defensive rebounds, she demanded the outlet and sprinted into transition. That doesn't allow a traditional center like Griner to get set defensively. She worked the pick and roll with Aaliyah Boston to perfection. Griner was forced to switch and rotate. At times, she looked slow, disconnected, and unsure of whether to hedge, drop, or switch. All because Caitlyn kept her guessing. When Griner tried to stay in the paint and help on drives, Caitlyn punished her with skip passes to Sophie Cunningham and Dantas, both of whom hit crucial threes that made the Dream pay for sagging.
Dantas, Aaliyah Boston, and Sophie Cunningham, who literally said, we need to play like with Caitlyn. The way Caitlyn plays, we need to adjust to Caitlyn.
That's how you dismantle a star without even scoring on her. And it wasn't just Griner. The entire Atlanta frontcourt melted under the pressure. Brianna Jones, foul trouble. She was in constant recovery mode, late on rotations, and eventually fouled out. The Dream's bigs couldn't stop the bleeding. In the first half, they looked composed. But as Caitlyn took control in the third and fourth quarters, their defense fell apart. By the time the game ended, the Fever had dropped 99 points on them, with 30 coming in the fourth quarter alone. But here's what makes it even more incredible. Caitlyn Clark did all of this while being doubted. People keep asking, where's the scoring? Why isn't she dropping 30? They miss what's really happening. Caitlyn Clark is reshaping the game in real time. She doesn't need to dominate with points because her presence warps defenses.
Stephanie White destroyed Caitlyn Clark.
Stephanie White has faded Caitlyn Clark, for lack of a better way of putting it.
And when Atlanta got desperate, when they tried to double her, trap her, take away the three, she didn't panic. She didn't force bad shots. Instead, she trusted the system she was creating on the floor. She kept the pressure up by finding the open player, forcing Griner and company to rotate, chase, and guess. Eventually, they broke. The Dream's interior defense crumbled, their shooters cooled off, and their body language, it said everything. Shoulders slumped, frustration on faces, lost rotations. That's what happens when a team gets mentally outplayed. And Caitlyn Clark did that without ever needing a heat check moment. The game started with Atlanta's bigs setting the tone. By the end, they were invisible. And while critics may point to Caitlyn's 5 of 17 shooting, they'll miss the bigger picture. A rookie guard just outclassed one of the WNBA's longest, most experienced front courts.
That's what it is. The Indiana Fever get a win today versus the Atlanta Dream, 99-82. Caitlyn Clark with a near double-double, 12 points, 9 assists.
And made them look outdated. Let's not forget, Brittney Griner is no ordinary player. She's an Olympian, a former face of the league, someone expected to dominate matchups like these. But Caitlyn Clark exposed the limitations of size without speed, of length without agility, and of star status without adaptability. In this game, Griner wasn't just held in check, she was neutralized. And this wasn't an accident. It was the result of Caitlyn Clark controlling every inch of space on the floor. She turned Atlanta's strength into their weakness. Even Jordan Canada, who had torched Indiana in the first half with 26 points, found herself invisible in the second. With Clark leading the defense and speeding up the offense, Canada couldn't regain her rhythm. She finished with only 4 points after halftime. By the end of the game, it was clear the Dream had been dismantled, mentally, physically, and tactically. And the person who made it happen wasn't a veteran all-star. It was a rookie, a playmaker, a leader. It was Caitlyn Clark.
Caitlyn Clark, the system is fun to watch.
Clearly, she's not quite at 100%, still working her way back, hasn't found her three ball yet, but what she did was attack. She used the physicality against the defenders by putting her head down and going to the basket. That opened things up for her playmaking, which of course is another genius aspect of her game.
This wasn't just a win, it was a warning. Caitlyn Clark didn't need to drop 40 to dominate. She controlled the game on both ends, locked down one of the league's hottest scorers, neutralized a star-studded front court, and ran the offense with surgical precision. Every possession flowed through her, every adjustment started with her.
Caitlyn Clark has changed the game. She changed it in college and in the WNBA.
The country has fallen in love with what we have created. And America, here's the girl next door, all grown up, Caitlyn Clark.
Caitlyn Clark has captivated the nation, breaking scoring records in college and bringing women's basketball to a whole new audience.
She is a phenomenon.
And every moment that mattered was shaped by her presence. She exposed the cracks, she forced the Dream to collapse, and she reminded everyone why she's the most talked about player in the WNBA, even when her shot isn't falling.
We need to play like with Caitlyn. The way Caitlyn plays, we need to adjust to Caitlyn.
This game proved one thing. When Caitlyn Clark is allowed to be Caitlyn Clark, the Fever become a different beast. So if you believe it's time to let her take over full time, drop 100% for Caitlyn in the comments.
You have more people who are fans of Caitlyn Clark and not fans of the Indiana Fever.
Every single good thing that has happened to your organization is because of number 22.
Because this wasn't luck. This was leadership. and it's only the beginning. Caitlyn Clark is here, and she's not just part of the system anymore. She is the system.